guys, how you doing? Cosmic Carry here. Today I'd like to discuss the Conqueror gun carriage. We're talking about artillery here today. My experience in playing in this thing. The tier 10 British artillery piece is commonly referred to as the CGC. I myself personally, I've done all of the ARTY grinds, and the last one I did was the Russians. I literally finished that grind about a month ago, and I got the Russian artillery piece, and I didn't touch it for about a month. I was so exhausted, so fed up with playing in artillery, grinding out those lines. The one previous to the Soviets was the French artillery. I mean, they're kind of unique and different, you know, some of them, especially like the French line and all of that jazz. But it's nothing compared to grinding out like a TD line or a medium line and discovering hidden gems and fantastic little machines that you want to go back and repurchase and all of that jazz. But this isn't really about comparisons of tank lines, you know, comparing them to the ARTY lines, etc, or the grind or all of that jazz. Equipment is only loaded on this tank, none other, you know. I don't play on any other artillery piece. Even my tier 9 American artillery piece, which is considered to be the best one tier for tier, I don't play that. You know, I haven't played that in yonks. I think the last time, if memory serves me, was when I played it and I created that vid. It's not about what ARTY you play, it's which ARTY you play, and that vid has actually been quite successful. It's got like 10k views plus and then some, and I understand that showcasing this artillery piece is gonna perhaps prompt some people to go for this tank, and I understand I'm taking that risk, shall we say, and I'm okay with that, because that's not the message I'm trying to convey. What I'm trying to convey is how overpowered this tank is and how unfair it is, and you've got like the PC side, which is a completely different game to us and all of that stuff, and they're trying to do something with artillery. You know, they implemented they reduced the penetration, and they added increased splash damage or something along those lines, and stun mechanics. I haven't got a clue, but they're trying to do something, and as far as I know, ARTY has always been the same. ARTY has never been changed. It's never been buffed or nerfed. It's just, you know, as far as I know, you know, apart from the Burt, I think it was nerfed at tier 6, the British artillery. But anyhow, whatever. So this is the Conqueror gun carriage, and this is the only artillery that I play occasionally here and there. I do have like 300 games odd played in this thing. What is my mentality, what is my thinking in this when I play this thing? And it is simply kick back, relax, get a high damage, possibly maybe, you know, an easy win. Use it for grinds, such as, you know, for long haul op, or if I just want to complete the op that requires, you know, some XP, etc. But do I play this tank like a whole evening or something like that, or for days on end, like I would play, for instance, back in the day, my E100, or when I discovered got the mouse, and I used to play the mouse non-stop, or mediums, you know, my Object 430. I would play in my Object 430 on a regular basis, endless evenings, just in my Object 430. Having said that tank's overpowered, but that is my thinking, that is my mentality, and but every time I do play in this tank, I realize fully 100% how OP it is and how unfair it is. It is 100% unfair, and especially when you compare it to other artillery in the game. The rest of the artillery, in my personal opinion, you know, they're the tier 10s. They're tier 10 artillery, and this one is kind of 10.5. You know, it's kind of like the Super Conqueror, comparing the Super Conqueror to the, I don't know, like the E100. The E100 is tier 10. A lot of people consider like the Super Conq to be at tier 11. That's kind of like the same with the CGC and the rest of the artillery at tier 10. This is just, it takes ARTY to another level compared to the rest of the ARTY pieces at tier 10. In the last month or so, we've had the reworking of certain tanks like the Waffenträger and or the AMX 30. I can't remember which ones, but they've tweaked or buffed the reload speed and some of the armor on the tanks and all of this jazz. And I can't. Every time they do this, and Mr. Jeff puts out an article where he initially always states, "Hi, my name is Jeff. Let's talk about these tanks." And I'm screaming, why can't it ever be, "Hi, my name is Jeff. Let's talk about ARTY." I fully appreciate that there's ARTY players that love playing artillery, but you cannot escape the fact that, especially the CGC, is just unfair beyond all belief, because you can side scrape as much as you want, you can angle your tank as much as you want, but it just simply does not compare. All of that is pointless, all of that is useless. All of the nerfs and tweaks and buffs are completely and utterly useless when I'm dropping a nuclear bomb from my CGC onto your head. Now, what, in my personal humble opinion, what makes this ARTY much better than the other pieces of ARTY, because it does have a really long reload time, and also it's not the fastest, and you can't shoot all the way across to the other side of the map often. Not often, but you can't do it as easily as you can in other tanks, and you have to kind of reposition it. You're forced to reposition your tank in order to reach your intended target. There's two things basically that make this tank unbelievably overpowered and tremendously unfair, in my personal humble opinion, and that is the shell arc and the actual shell. And the shell arc, what's different about the shell arc on the CGC is that it goes up to a much greater height. I'm going to show it up on the screen now, than it would do in another tank, in another artillery. On the left you see the shell at its highest on Himmelsdorf from a CGC, and on the right it's a T92. So as you can see, the shell is about, I would say, like 50 to 70% higher than it is on a T92. What this basically means is tanks are going to have a tougher time hiding behind buildings to avoid your shell, because your shell is coming down at a much steeper angle than it would do on from another piece of artillery. So you can reach areas that other tier 10 artillery would not be able to reach. Here we see a T92 trying to hit the same area that was featured in the intro vid. As you can see, it can't at all. And now I'm going to feature the rest of the tier 10 artillery. I'm not going to bore you to death, but you'll see up on the screen, none of them can reach the same area that was featured on the intro vid. So that's the first feature that is totally bonkers and bananas. The second feature is the actual shells and the splash damage that they cause, particularly the premium shell, which the splash damage on the premium shell is just over, I think it's 11 meters, while the regular shell is 7 meters. You get exactly the same pen, exactly the same damage. Damage is 2,200. You don't pen, but when you do, you know, it's fantastic and all of that jazz. But when I play this tank, me personally, It's not about penning people. Like I said, if and when I do, it's great, it's fantastic. Look out mediums, look out lights, but you know, they're very mobile and they're tough to hit. But I have like penned Jagdpanzer E100 for full health, etc, etc. But with me, it's all about splashing tanks in this thing. 11 meters, which isn't actually the largest amount of splash damage that you can do. I think that honor belongs to the T92, but the T92 doesn't have the arc that this artillery piece has. When you combine the arc with the huge splash damage, 10 meters, I'm guessing it's kind of like the length of the tank, you can comfortably drop shells, not anywhere, but in a lot of places where other artillery pieces cannot reach. And me personally, I love dropping shells just between tanks, and you splash both tanks for 700, 1000, you know, whatever it is. And not only do you, when you splash them, you cause damage, but module crews get knocked out and all of this jazz. So when you combine these two factors, it is so unfair to play in this tank. It is just so unfair. So let's get in some gameplay and I'll show you why. Okay, hey ho, let's go. We're looking for our first victim. We're on Arctic region, tier 10 game of course. And who will be our first customer? Remember, I'm not really looking to one-shot tanks. I'm looking to splash them. That's pretty much the way I play this thing. We have the premium shells loaded. We have all the equipment set up to the max. We have food as well. And we're just gonna bring down hell upon these poor guys. And I can comfortably shoot any of these guys on the corner. As you can see, it's not a problem, it's not an issue. We're waiting for my aiming reticle to zoom in. It's zoomed in all the way. And who are we going to drop a shell on? And here we go.
Disgusting!
As you can see, I get 2 damage ribbons. That means I damaged the tank next to him, the 50 TP, and the, what is that, a tiger? I can't even see. So we managed to drop the shell between them, and we've managed to, looks like we damaged one tank for about 1k and the other one for about 700. So pretty much, I mean, that's like 1700 along those lines. And this is what you're looking for in this artillery piece, is a whole cluster of tanks just bunched together. Because you know you're gonna hit a few of them. There we go, 957. That's really decent. And I didn't damage his second tank, and that's because it landed on the Super Conch. Thus not damaging any other tanks. I mean, that's my understanding of how the mechanics work. The reload isn't god awful. It's not terrible. 50 TP in the back. Whatever the heck he's doing. Keep in mind, I couldn't be doing any of this in any other artillery piece, only in this tank. And the mentality is, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the way I play this thing, I think I'm going to get this guy just for like 100 damage. He's going to get really lucky. There you go, he pulls all the way back. Yeah, see, only 100. My thinking, my mentality is to try and make every single shot count. Initially, when I started playing in ARTY, I would always kind of be rushing my shots because of the long reload, and I found it to be far more effective just to take forever to place a shot as perfectly as I can. For instance, when I did that fade-ins experiment and I rolled out onto the battlefield with only 3 or 4 shells, even with only 3 or 4 shells, I was still doing 3-4k damage. And that's because that's how I play. I try and make every single shell count. And I take my time, and I get, you know, shots like that. You know, the reload, you know, what can you do? The reload's long. But keep in mind, okay, 3.3k damage, and what are these guys supposed to do? I was asking myself, are they poking out too much? They're not. In all honesty, they really aren't. They're trying to hug this hill as much as they can. But even like this super conk, I can just shoot right there, and with the splash damage, I will kill him because he's on such low health. I forgot to mention that. If somebody's directly behind a building, you just can't reach them. You just splash right next to them, and you'll hit them for 400 damage, 500 damage. So you get enemies that are on mega low health, and they duck behind the building, and you can't reach them. It doesn't mean a thing in this artillery. You just splash right next to where they are on the side of the building, and you're still able to kill them confidently. I'm not talking this is a fluke or you get lucky. This is easy. This is every single time this happens, you know, with me. So they've all disappeared. Two of them, they're on low health. So we're going to take I think it's a blind fire here. There he is. And yeah, get a bombardier. So now we're up to like 5k damage, I'm guessing. A bombardier. And it kind of reminds me, you know, this moment I was like, whoa, bombardier, yay. And then I went quiet because I was saying, well, if that was me, I'd be so pissed. Because they're in such OP vehicles and they're doing the best that they can. And it's just nothing. There's nothing that they can do up against this thing. There's just nothing that they can do. There's no counter, basically. You cannot counter this thing. You know, another ARTY can counter me. But that's about it. And it's just so mega unfair. It really did remind me of when I was watching the documentary about the Bismarck, and they sunk the HMS Hood, and they were whooping and hollering, and one of the sailors said, and then 10 minutes later we were all somber and scared because they knew that could be them. So I know you can't really compare the two situations, but so I can't reach all the way down in K3 with my shell, so I need to relocate. This is what I mentioned. Yeah, let's see. We're shooting. Where are we shooting? Are we looking for the gorilla? Looking for the gorilla. We're aiming in, and we're just waiting for the gorilla, but he doesn't show up. There's a striker. We're gonna try and anticipate where he's gonna be, and I think we splash him. Something 190. What was this? That is something. So those two TDs are dead. We're just waiting for ARTY to get lit up, and we can hopefully take out ARTY. When you're shooting other ARTY in this thing, which is common amongst all other ARTYs, you just need to splash nearby, and that's it. I mean, there's ARTY, and then there's playing in this ARTY. It's kind of that's how I see it. That's how I find it. It's kind of two different categories, honestly, two different things, and there's nothing that you can do to counter this. But everybody knows this. It's just even more so when it comes to the British Tier 10 ARTY, the CGC. Okay, come on, scout tank. Show me where he is. I think I hit the ARTY like dead on. Absolutely precise, the accuracy. Let's see. Not saying it is in general, but yeah, there you go. Clock. GG. 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 Just so unfair. Mega unfair. Anyhow, I'm gonna sign out. Take it easy, guys. I'll leave this kind of vid in your hands, up to you what you want to make of it and all of that jazz. I know this is going to promote a whole bunch of people to go out there and get this thing, but at the same time, that's not what I'm trying to do. So, you know, the intention, that's not my intention. It's kind of, I'm trying to draw attention to the fact, well, everybody knows ARTY's unfair and unbalanced, but even more so, not just kind of blabber about it on the forums. So anyhow, take it easy, guys. Adios, muchachos.